The sound of silverware clinking against plates echoed softly through the restaurant, but at the Thompson table, silence had a sharper edge. A warm amber glow washed over the room, bouncing off polished wine glasses and soft leather seats, yet nothing about the atmosphere between Emma and her father felt warm. Emma leaned forward, her dyed pink hair catching the overhead light, her short bangs framing a glare sharp enough to cut through the entire dining room. Her tattoos peeked out from beneath her sleeves as she pointed her fork toward her father, barely containing the irritation boiling inside her. "You don't get it, Dad," she said, voice tight and trembling with indignation. "You sit there pretending everything you say is just your opinion, but it's not. It's patriarchal. You're patriarchal." A few nearby diners glanced over. Michael, sitting across from her, stiffened. At 45, he carried the tired dignity of a man who had worked too hard for too long, but nothing made him shrink faster than the disappointment in his daughter's eyes. "Emma," he began, his voice low, cautious, worn. "I wasn't trying to." "You never try. That's the point," she snapped. "You just dominate the conversation, the decisions, the room. You always have." Michael's jaw tightened. He wasn't angry. He was hurt, but he swallowed it down, as he always did. Around them, plates remained untouched. The rest of the family sat frozen, her aunt awkwardly adjusting her napkin, her cousin pretending to check his phone, her grandmother staring into her water glass as though hoping it would swallow her whole. Emma didn't care. She was tired of the tension, tired of the unspoken rules, tired of feeling like a storm everyone tiptoed around. Then came the moment that shifted the entire energy in the room. A waiter passing by paused for just a moment, not long enough to seem intrusive, but long enough for Emma to notice his expression. He was older, maybe in his late 50s, with gentle eyes and a posture that spoke of decades spent carrying plates and people's burdens. He wasn't judging her. He wasn't amused or irritated. He looked sad. Emma blinked. Something about that quiet sadness unsettled her, scraping against the inside of her chest. But she pushed it away. "See," she said, turning back to her father with renewed fire. "Every time I try to express myself, you turn it into some attack on your authority. You can't stand being challenged." Michael let out a slow breath, his voice trembling slightly. "I'm not trying to win an argument, Emma. I'm trying to have dinner with my daughter." His words hung in the air, fragile as glass. Emma felt something crack inside her, but pride sealed it quickly. The waiter lingered only a second more before walking toward the kitchen. Emma watched him go, a strange unease blooming beneath her anger. She didn't know why his eyes bothered her so much. She didn't know why, suddenly, the room felt heavier. "Let's just eat," her grandmother whispered softly. But Emma couldn't shake the feeling that the man who had just walked away hadn't simply witnessed their conflict. He had recognized it. And that, for reasons she refused to admit, terrified her. Emma tried to steady her breathing, but the words she'd thrown across the table still pulsed in the air like a bruise that refused to fade. The soft music playing through the restaurant speakers felt painfully out of place. Everything around her seemed too calm for the storm inside her chest. Michael shifted in his seat, his shoulders tight beneath his shirt. He wasn't a large man, but tonight he looked smaller than usual, smaller than she remembered him ever being. His fingers brushed the edge of his napkin, folding and unfolding it with quiet, nervous precision. "I didn't mean to upset you," he said cautiously. "I was only saying that I should rethink my choices," Emma snapped before he could finish. "That I'm too loud, too aggressive, too something. You always have something to say about how I am." Michael's eyes flickered with pain, but he inhaled slowly, trying to remain stable. "I wasn't criticizing you. I was worried. There's a difference." Emma let out a humorous laugh. "With you, there's no difference." Her aunt cleared her throat softly, trying to escape the rising tension, but Emma ignored her. The temperature in the room felt like it had risen, yet a cold knot formed at the base of her spine. Michael's voice dropped. "You've misunderstood me for years, Emma." "Misunderstood?" she repeated, leaning forward. "Dad, you don't listen. You don't try to understand anything beyond your worldview. And the moment I say something that doesn't fit into your old-fashioned box, you shut down." Michael shook his head, defeated. "That's not fair." "It's honest," she shot back. The table fell silent again, but this time, Emma wasn't the only one who felt the shift. Her grandmother slowly placed her fork down, watching her granddaughter with a mixture of worry and exhaustion. Her cousin avoided eye contact completely. Then Emma noticed him again. The waiter. He stood a few feet away, pretending to check on another table, but his gaze lingered, not on Michael, but on her. There was no judgment, no irritation, only recognition. Emma felt a strange heat crawl up her neck. Why did he look at her that way? As if he'd heard these words before, lived them before. She tore her eyes away, frustrated at herself for caring. Michael cleared his throat. "Emma," he said gently, "I'm trying. I'm not perfect, but I'm trying. I wish you could." "Trying isn't enough," she interrupted, her voice rising again. "You want credit for basic decency? For just existing as my father? That's the minimum." Michael flinched. For a moment, the room seemed to tilt. The waiter took a small step forward, hesitated, and then approached their table with quiet, deliberate steps. Emma straightened, her heartbeat quickening despite herself. "Excuse me," he said softly, his tone respectful, steady. Emma's glare snapped toward him. "We didn't call you." "I know," he replied. "I just wanted to check if everything is all right." His voice was calm, gentle, but there was something in it, something weighted, something that made Emma's breath hitch. Michael looked away, embarrassed. Emma crossed her arms, irritation rising. "We're fine. It's a family discussion." The waiter held her gaze for a second longer, his eyes filled with something she couldn't decipher. Not pity, not judgment, something more painful, more personal. "I understand," he said quietly. "I've had one of those discussions myself." Emma's brows knit. "And?" The waiter's lips tightened into a sad, thin smile. "And I said things I can never take back." Before Emma could respond, he turned and walked away, leaving her frozen, her anger suddenly shaken at the foundation. Because for the first time that night, she felt something she hadn't expected at all. Doubt. Emma stared at the back of the waiter as he disappeared between tables, her pulse thumping unevenly. The restaurant hummed softly with conversations and clinking glasses, yet everything around her felt muffled, distant, like she had been pulled underwater. His words replayed in her mind. "I said things I can never take back." The heaviness in his voice clung to her, refusing to loosen its grip. She shifted in her seat, arms crossed even tighter, as if trying to hold herself together. Michael watched her carefully, as though afraid to push, afraid to break whatever fragile thread kept them connected. "Emma," he began cautiously, "you don't have to talk to me. Just don't shut me out." Emma exhaled sharply. "I'm not shutting you out." But she was, and they both knew it. Her grandmother placed her napkin gently on her lap, eyes soft but observant. She didn't speak, she rarely did during these moments, but her silence carried a quiet plea. Emma looked away, refusing to be swayed by anyone's expression. But the waiter's voice wouldn't stop echoing. "It was just a comment," she muttered to herself, trying to justify her explosion earlier. "I only defended myself." Michael sighed. "Emma, I wasn't attacking you." "You always say that," she shot back, "but every time you question my choices, it feels like you're questioning me." Michael hesitated. "I question things because I care, maybe too much." Emma rolled her eyes, though her chest tightened. "There it is again. Your way of caring always feels like control." Michael clasped his hands together. I'm sorry if it comes across that way." "If," she repeated, sharpening the word like a blade. Michael winced. Her aunt shifted uncomfortably in her seat, but Emma didn't look at her. She couldn't, because if she did, she might see something she wasn't ready to face. Her eyes drifted back toward the kitchen. Why did the waiter say that? Why did he look at her as if he knew exactly what she was feeling and where it would lead? Why had his sadness felt personal? Before she could untangle the thought, she heard quiet footsteps approaching again. Emma's heart jolted when she realized it was him. The waiter stopped beside the table, holding a tray of water glasses he hadn't placed anywhere yet. It was an excuse, obvious but careful. "Sorry to interrupt," he said softly, directing his voice to the whole table, but his eyes to Emma. "I just wanted to make sure you all had what you needed." Emma froze, defensive walls shooting up instantly. "We said we're fine." He tilted his head. "Sometimes we say we're fine when we're anything but." Emma's stomach twisted. "Are you trying to give advice or serve water?" "Serving water," he replied calmly. "But sometimes life hands you a chance to say something that matters. And I learned too late that staying silent can hurt more than speaking up." Michael looked up at him, confused. Her grandmother's eyebrows lifted with quiet curiosity. Emma's voice dropped, colder now. "What exactly are you implying?" The waiter let out a slow breath, lowering the tray to his side. "Only this, be careful with the way you speak to the people you love. You may think you're fighting ideas, but sometimes you're fighting someone who would do anything for you." Emma's chest tightened painfully. The words weren't loud, they weren't harsh, they were honest, and they cut deeper than anything her father had said. The waiter gave a small, apologetic nod and stepped back. "I'll bring your meal shortly." As he walked away again, Emma felt her fingers go numb around her napkin. Her father wasn't looking at her with anger. He was looking at her with something much harder to ignore. Hurt, recognition, hope, fragile and trembling. Emma swallowed hard, her voice barely a whisper. Why did he say it like he's lived it? But no one at the table had an answer, and the truth she didn't want to face hovered above her like a shadow. For the first time in a long time, she wasn't entirely sure she was right.
Emma's fingers tightened around the edge of the tablecloth, grounding herself as her thoughts churned in painful, disorienting circles. The restaurant felt smaller now, as though the walls had inched closer, sealing her into a moment she didn't know how to escape. Michael sat across from her, shoulders tense, eyes lowered. He looked like he was waiting for the storm to hit again or for her to simply walk away. He wasn't sure which. Dinner conversations around them rose and fell in gentle waves, starkly contrasted against the chaos twisting inside her chest. Emma cleared her throat, trying to shake off the waiter's words. "He doesn't know me," she muttered. "He just overheard a conversation." Michael opened his mouth, closed it, then finally said, "Sometimes strangers see things we can't." Emma's jaw clenched. "You're taking his side?" "I'm not taking anyone's side," Michael said gently. "I'm just listening." The simplicity of his tone threw her off. She was used to resistance, arguments, tension, not softness, not quiet. Her grandmother took a small sip of water, her hands steady despite the tension. She had always been the observer, the quiet bridge in a family full of sharp edges. "What did he mean?" Emma whispered to herself more than anyone. Her cousin shifted nervously in his chair, glancing between her and Michael as if waiting for someone to break the silence. Even her aunt, usually glued to her phone during uncomfortable moments, watched with thinly veiled concern. Emma pushed back in her chair, just slightly, needing space. "Look, whatever he was talking about, it doesn't matter. I'm just expressing myself. I have that right." Michael nodded slowly. "You do. Of course you do." His agreement threw her off balance. She stared at him, narrowing her eyes. "Then why does it always feel like you want to shut me down?" Michael rubbed his thumb along the edge of his napkin, a nervous habit she recognized from childhood. "Because sometimes you come at me like I'm your enemy," he said quietly, and I don't know how to talk to you without making things worse." Emma's chest tightened. Something inside her wanted to reject his words, dismiss them, file them under the long list of excuses she believed he always hid behind. But tonight, they didn't feel like excuses. They felt like confessions. Before she could process it, the waiter reappeared with a small tray. Not with their meals, just with a single cup of tea he placed gently in front of her grandmother. "I remembered you ordered this," he said softly. Her grandmother smiled warmly. "Thank you, dear." Emma watched him, watched the way he handled the cup, how carefully he placed it, how his eyes lingered on her grandmother with the tenderness of someone who understood the weight of age. Then he glanced at Emma. Not with judgment, not with condescension, but with a wounded kind of familiarity. Emma's breath hitched. Before she could speak, he took a step back. "If I said too much earlier," he hesitated. "I apologize. It wasn't my place." Emma felt something twist inside her. "Why did you say it then?" she asked, surprised by how small her voice sounded. The waiter's expression softened into something painfully honest. "Because once, I spoke to my daughter the same way you just spoke to your father." His throat bobbed with a swallow. "And I never got the chance to take it back." Emma froze. The restaurant noise evaporated. The candle flames flickered. Her heartbeat thudded painfully in her ears. Michael's eyes widened. Her grandmother's hand stilled around her cup. Emma's voice cracked just slightly. What happened?" The waiter breathed out slowly, the kind of exhale that belonged to a memory too heavy to carry, yet impossible to let go. "She walked out," he said, "and I spent the next 10 years wishing I had listened instead of trying to win." Emma's pulse faltered. He continued, words fragile but firm. "And by the time I understood that, she was gone." Emma's breath stuttered. Michael's hand twitched on the table, instinctively wanting to reach out, but too afraid. The waiter gave a small, sad smile. "I hope you never learned the lesson the way I did." He stepped away, leaving Emma trembling beneath the weight of his truth. For the first time in her life, the fury inside her flickered, and something else took its place. Something she wasn't ready to face. Emma sat frozen, her spine rigid, her breath shallow. The restaurant's murmurs felt distant, swallowed by the weight of the waiter's words still echoing through her mind. She wasn't used to seeing her anger reflected back at her through someone else's pain, and she certainly wasn't prepared for it to shake her so deeply. Michael watched her with a cautious tenderness, as if afraid that the slightest push would send her spiraling deeper into herself. His fingers twist near the table's edge, wanting to reach for her but not daring. Emma forced a breath. He doesn't know me," she whispered, but the conviction in her voice had weakened. "He doesn't know anything about us." Her grandmother placed her teacup gently on its saucer, the soft click grounding the moment. "Sometimes, querida, it takes someone outside to show us what we don't see." Emma swallowed hard. He shouldn't have said anything. Michael's voice broke through, low and honest. Maybe not, but maybe he saw something familiar. Pain has a way of recognizing itself. Emma's throat tightened. She hated how his words slipped beneath her skin now. Before tonight, she would have brushed them off, called them manipulative or outdated or patronizing. But now they felt different, heavy, real. "What if he was lying?" she said, though even as the words left her lips, she knew how weak they sounded. Her aunt let out a slow exhale, finally speaking. "Emma, you saw his face. People don't fake that kind of sorrow." The knot in Emma's chest tightened. She pressed her palms against her thighs to steady herself. The waiter's story replayed again and again. His daughter walking out, the silence that followed, the decade he spent wishing he could rewind a single night. Emma clenched her jaw. "It's not the same. Dad and we're just arguing. It's normal." "Is it?" her grandmother asked softly. "Yes, parents and children fight all the time." "Not like this," her aunt murmured. Emma's eyes flashed toward her, defensive. "What's that supposed to mean?" Her aunt hesitated.
It means that maybe you don't realize how hard your words hit. Emma felt her cheeks burn. I'm just being honest. Michael finally lifted his gaze. His voice wavered. Honesty doesn't have to destroy Emma. She froze. Her father wasn't angry. He wasn't raising his voice. He wasn't pushing back. He was simply hurting. And for the first time that night, she allowed herself to see it. His tired eyes, the slump in his shoulders, the years of swallowed emotions. It cracked something inside her, just a little. I'm not trying to destroy anything, she said softly, though her voice shook. Michael nodded. I know, but it still hurts. Emma's breath stuttered. She wasn't prepared for the rawness of that admission. She wasn't prepared for the way it made her chest compress around a guilt she didn't want to feel. The waiter's words whispered again through her mind. Be careful with the way you speak to the people you love. Emma looked down at her hands, the tattoos on her arms suddenly feeling like shields she no longer knew how to use. She wasn't wrong about her beliefs. She still stood by them. But maybe she wasn't right about everything either. Maybe she wasn't seeing the whole picture. Dad, she began, but her voice cracked and stopped. Michael waited patiently, like he always did, even when it hurt him. Emma inhaled shakily. Before she could finish, the waiter reappeared at the edge of the table with their meals. But he didn't interrupt this time. He paused, watching Emma with the kind of understanding that only those who have lost something irreversible can offer. And Emma felt the full weight of it. For the first time that night, she felt the ground beneath her feet shift. Not from anger, but from realization.
The plates touched the table with gentle thuds, but Emma barely heard them. The aroma of warm pasta and roasted herbs rose between them, yet none of the scents registered. Her mind spun in a slow, heavy circle, pulled between pride and something far more fragile tugging at the back of her ribs. The waiter stepped away with a quiet nod, leaving one last shadow of sadness in his footsteps. Emma watched him go, her chest tightening in a way she couldn't rationalize. She felt exposed, as if he had reached inside her argument and pulled out a truth she didn't want to see. Michael unfolded his napkin, his movements slow, cautious, as though he were navigating a minefield he wasn't sure he had the right to cross. Emma, he murmured, you don't have to say anything. I just want you to be okay. Emma clenched her jaw, a reflex she developed years ago, a way to keep anything resembling vulnerability from leaking out. I am okay, she said, though her voice trembled. Are you? Her grandmother asked softly. Emma shot her a quick glance, defensive. Why is everyone acting like I'm attacking him for no reason? Her aunt inhaled. Because maybe you're not seeing the whole picture. Emma's pulse kicked up. You think I'm wrong? No, her aunt replied carefully. I think you're hurting. And when people are hurting, sometimes the truth gets tangled. Emma looked away, her breath hitching. She hated how these words made her feel, cornered, exposed, and suddenly uncertain of the ground she stood on. Michael cleared his throat, his voice barely above a whisper. Emma, I know I haven't always been the easiest person to talk to. Emma stared at him, startled by how quickly her throat tightened. And I know, he continued, fingers twisting nervously, that sometimes I say the wrong thing, or I don't say anything at all, when maybe I should. Emma swallowed hard. Hearing him admit this, gently, without defensiveness, made her chest ache in an unfamiliar way. But, Michael said slowly, I never meant to make you feel small. Emma's breath faltered. And I never thought of you as anything less than strong. He paused, gathering courage. Sometimes too strong for me to keep up with. Something inside her cracked, a hairline fracture in the armor she spent years building. She looked down at her plate, the pasta untouched, the steam fading. Her reflection wavered faintly in the sheen of the sauce, pink hair framing a face she barely recognized in that moment. Angry, confused,
and afraid. Afraid of what she might learn about herself if she listened too closely. Her grandmother leaned forward slightly. "Querida, sometimes we build walls to protect ourselves from the wrong things, and we don't notice who we shut out in the process." Emma pressed her lips together, blinking against a sting she refused to acknowledge. She knew exactly what her grandmother meant. She had built entire ideologies, entire identities around not being vulnerable, not letting anyone, especially her father, hold enough space to hurt her. But the waiter's voice had pierced through all of that. Emma took a shaky breath. "I'm not trying to shut anyone out." Michael nodded. "I believe you." His calmness unnerved her more than any argument ever had. Because it was real. Because it was soft. Because it carried every wound she had given him tonight. She forced herself to look at him. "Then why does it feel like every time I speak, we end up here? Me angry, you hurt, everyone uncomfortable?" "Because," Michael said gently, "we're not fighting about the words. We're fighting about everything we haven't said for years." Emma's stomach twisted. The weight of the truth settled heavily on her shoulders. She suddenly felt tired, not from anger, but from carrying too many unspoken things for too long. She glanced once more toward the kitchen, toward the place where the waiter had disappeared. His story lingered like a ghost at their table. A daughter who walked away, a father who never got her back, a silence that lasted a decade. Emma's pulse thudded painfully. Without meaning to, she whispered, What if I'm becoming her?" Michael's expression softened into something she had never seen before, a mix of fear and hope, brewed together in a way only a parent could feel. He didn't say no. He didn't say impossible. He simply looked at her with eyes that begged for something far more fragile. "Please, don't leave me behind." Emma looked away, her heart pounding. For the first time tonight, for the first time in years, she wasn't sure if she wanted to run from the conversation or stay.
Emma's heartbeat thudded unevenly beneath her ribs, each pulse a reminder of the words the waiter had left behind, words she didn't want but couldn't shake. The restaurant's soft lighting painted warm highlights along the table, but her skin felt cold, too cold. Michael hadn't touched his food, neither had she. The steam rising from their plates curled upward and vanished into the air, much like her certainty had evaporated moments ago. Her grandmother dabbed her lips with her napkin, watching the two of them with eyes filled with a long, quiet wisdom. "You know," she began softly, "sometimes the universe sends us the same lesson more than once, just in different voices." Emma's gaze shot toward her. "You think the waiter is the universe now?" Her grandmother shrugged gently. "Stranger messengers have appeared in my life." Her aunt let out a quiet breath, nodding. "He didn't look like someone trying to interfere, Emma. He looked like someone trying to prevent a mistake." Emma tensed. "Whose mistake? Mine?" Nobody answered immediately. The silence said more than any of them could. She felt heat build in her chest, irritation mixing with something far more vulnerable. She hated feeling exposed. She hated feeling like she might be the one in the wrong. But that sadness in the waiter's eyes, it had unsettled her in a way nothing her father ever said could. Michael finally spoke, his voice low and honest. "Emma, I don't want to lose you." The words hit her like a sudden blow. Not loud, not dramatic, just painfully sincere. "Lose me?" she repeated, her voice cracking despite her attempt to sound dismissive. "Dad, I'm not going anywhere." Michael's hands trembled slightly on the table. "Sometimes it feels like you already left." Emma went still. Her father never said things like that, never showed his wounds so openly, never revealed that beneath his steady exterior lived a man terrified of being abandoned. The realization cut through her like ice. She looked at him carefully, really looked. The lines along his forehead, the exhaustion beneath his eyes, the way he seemed to brace himself every time she spoke. She'd spent so long painting him as unshakable, immovable, unfeeling. She never wondered what it cost him to stand that way.
"I'm here," Emma said quietly, but the words didn't sound convincing, not even to herself. Michael swallowed, the movement thick with emotion. "Emma, this fight we keep having, it's not about what you believe. I respect that you have your own voice. I always have." Emma blinked, stunned. "You've never said that." "I didn't know how," he admitted, eyes dipping. "I thought being strong meant being quiet, but maybe I was wrong." Something cracked in Emma's chest. Her grandmother smiled sadly. "All these years, the two of you have been shouting over each other's fears." Emma looked down at her hands, her tattoos swirling like reminders of her independence, symbols she had chosen, shaped, reclaimed. But suddenly, they felt like armor, not expression. "Dad," she whispered, "I'm not trying to push you away." "But you are," he said softly, without accusation, "and maybe you don't see it, but I feel it." His voice trembled, not with anger, but with grief. Emma's breath broke, her eyes burned. This was the moment, the crack where her defenses finally began to slip. "I didn't know it felt like that for you," she murmured. Michael nodded. "And I didn't know how alone you felt trying to be understood." She looked up sharply, surprised by how precisely he had put it. The waiter's story resurfaced again in her mind. A daughter walking out, a father who never got her back. 10 years of silence. Emma's chest ached. She didn't want that. Not for them, not for her. The realization was like stepping into cold water, shocking, clarifying. "Dad," she whispered, her voice shaking, "I don't want us to end up like that." Michael's breath hitched, hope flickering behind his eyes like a trembling flame. Her grandmother reached across the table and gently touched Emma's hand. "Then don't wait until it's too late to say what truly matters." Emma swallowed hard. For once, she didn't argue. She didn't resist. She didn't shut down. She simply let the truth sit inside her, and it hurt in all the right ways. Emma felt her pulse hammering beneath her skin, each beat echoing with a truth she had spent years refusing to confront. She stared at her father, and for the first time, she saw the man behind the disagreements. Not the symbol, not the ideological opponent, but the human being she kept trying not to see. The waiter's story clung to her like a shadow. A daughter who walked away. A father who waited too long to understand. A silence that stretched across a decade. Emma swallowed hard. Michael cleared his throat gently, as if testing whether his voice was allowed in this fragile moment. "Emma, I know you think I'm trying to control you, and maybe sometimes I have tried too hard to protect you. I can admit that." Emma's breath hitched at the honesty, raw and unmistakably real. "But," he continued, "I never wanted to push you away. I just wanted to stay a part of your life, even when it felt like I wasn't needed anymore." Emma blinked. The words hit deeper than she expected, unsettling every certainty she had brought to this dinner. "You always mattered," she whispered, barely audible. Michael's shoulders eased slightly, though pain lingered in his expression. It hasn't felt that way for a long time. Her heart clenched. She didn't know how to respond, not with her usual fire, not with her usual rehearsed speeches. Nothing she had prepared fit this moment. Her grandmother leaned forward, her voice gentle but firm. "Querida, your father isn't trying to erase who you are. He's afraid of losing the person he raised." Emma's eyes stung. "But I'm still here." Her grandmother shook her head softly. "Your body is here, your voice is here, but your heart has been running from him for years." Emma looked down, throat tight. Her aunt added softly, "No one is asking you to stop being yourself, but sometimes being right isn't worth breaking someone you love." Emma's breath wavered, her chest tightening with emotions she couldn't name. She wanted to argue, to call it unfair, dramatic, exaggerated, but the truth was already sinking its roots too deep. She had been so focused on standing her ground that she never noticed the ground beneath her father crumbling. Michael spoke again, voice trembling despite his effort to control it. "Emma, I know you don't see me the way you used to. That's okay. You grew up, you changed, I changed too." He hesitated, breath catching. "But no matter how old you get, every time you walk into a room, I still see my daughter. And I don't know how to stop caring." Emma felt the air leave her lungs. The vulnerability in his voice, the softness, the fear, it tore straight through her defenses. "I never asked you to stop caring," she said shakily. "I just wanted you to understand me." "But I do," Michael replied, eyes shimmering with emotion he fought to contain. "More than you think, and more than I ever knew how to show." Emma bit her lip, trying to hold herself together. The image of the waiter resurfaced, the grief in his eyes, the weight on his shoulders, the regret woven into every word. She suddenly felt terrified. Terrified of waking up one day and realizing she had let a single heated moment define an entire relationship. Terrified of repeating a stranger's story because she refused to see her own father's humanity. Her grandmother broke the silence with a whisper. "You still have time, Emma. Don't waste it." Emma's throat burned. She looked at her father across the table, the man she had fought for years, the man she blamed for so much, the man she had never tried to understand. Her voice cracked. "Dad, I don't want to lose you." Michael's breath shuddered, and a fragile, trembling hope flickered across his face. "You won't." Emma wiped at her eyes quickly, embarrassed by the tears that escaped, tears she had refused to shed in front of him for years. But tonight, vulnerability didn't feel like defeat. It felt like the first honest thing she'd offered him in a long time. And as the weight of their shared past hung delicately between them, one undeniable truth finally settled over Emma. This fight wasn't about the argument. It was about everything they'd been afraid to say. Until now. The restaurant's lights seemed a little dimmer now, as if the room itself understood the delicacy of the moment unfolding at the Thompson table. Conversations around them blurred into background noise, nothing more than distant murmurs as Emma tried to steady the tremor in her chest. She wiped her eyes discreetly, though the warmth on her cheeks betrayed her. She hated crying in public, hated crying at all, but right now, pride felt like a pair of shoes 2 sizes too small. Every inhale hurt, every exhale felt like letting go of something she had clung to for far too long. Michael didn't move. He sat completely still, afraid to break the fragile bridge that had begun forming between them. His eyes stayed on her, not pressuring, not pleading, simply present. Emma swallowed hard, trying to gather her words. I didn't think you were hurting." Michael blinked, his expression softening with a sorrow that looked years old. "Parents learn to hide it. We think it makes us stronger." Emma let out a shaky, almost bitter laugh. "You're terrible at hiding it. I just never wanted to see it." Her grandmother smiled gently. "And now you are seeing. That's growth, querida." Emma looked down at her hands again, fingers twisting nervously. She felt vulnerable in a way she could barely tolerate, but she also felt something she hadn't felt around her father in years: clarity. "I was so busy fighting to be respected," she whispered, "that I didn't realize I was hurting you." Michael's breath caught. "Emma, I never wanted you to feel disrespected, not once." She looked up at him, searching his face. "Then why didn't you say that?" He opened his mouth, but no words came, only emotion, raw and trembling. Emma continued, her voice softer now. "Every conversation felt like a battle, like you were waiting for me to slip up so you could correct me." Michael shook his head quickly, panic flickering in his eyes. No, Emma, I was trying to protect you." Her eyebrows knitted. "From what? My own opinions?" "From being hurt," he said quietly. from a world that doesn't care about you the way I do. Emma felt her stomach twist. She suddenly remembered all the times he had waited up for her, all the times he'd insisted on knowing where she was going, all the warnings she interpreted as control. Maybe some of them were, maybe some weren't. But she had never bothered to ask. "I thought you wanted to control me," she admitted. Michael lowered his gaze. "I wanted to keep you safe." Her lip trembled. "I'm not a child anymore." He nodded, though pain creased his expression. "I know, but to me, you'll always be the person I'm afraid of losing." Emma bit down on her lower lip, fighting the wave rising inside her. "Dad," she murmured, "I didn't know you felt that way." Michael forced a fragile smile. "I didn't know how to tell you." Her grandmother sighed softly. "Both of you spent years assuming instead of speaking." Her aunt added gently, "And assumptions are the quickest way to build walls." Emma exhaled a long, shaky breath. She hated walls, hated hierarchy, power imbalances, emotional barriers. Yet she had unknowingly built the strongest one between herself and the person who loved her most. The waiter's voice rose again in her memory. "Be careful with the way you speak to the people you love." Emma glanced toward the kitchen, wondering if he could still feel the weight of his own story when he looked at her. She wouldn't forget his eyes, broken, regretful, warning. She didn't want that to be her future. Turning back to Michael, she whispered, "I don't want us to keep hurting each other." Michael's eyes glistened. "Neither do I." "I don't want to be that daughter," she added, "the one who walks away." Michael closed his eyes, relief washing over him. "You're right here." Emma hesitated, then, slowly, cautiously, reached across the table. Her fingers brushed his hand. It wasn't a hug, it wasn't forgiveness, it wasn't a promise. It was a beginning. Michael's breath caught. He turned his hand palm up, letting her touch settle into place as though it were something sacred. Her grandmother smiled with quiet pride. Her aunt dabbed a tear at the corner of her eye. And Emma? Emma felt something unfamiliar but welcome bloom in her chest. A desire to understand, not just to be understood. The restaurant lights glowed softly above them, casting a warm halo over the table, as if the dim chandeliers understood that something delicate, something painfully necessary was finally unfolding. Emma kept her hand over her father's, not tightly, not possessively, just enough to feel the warmth and weight of him. A simple contact she hadn't allowed in years. Michael didn't move. He didn't squeeze her hand or pull it closer. He just stayed still, as if afraid that any reaction might break the moment she had offered him. Emma took a slow breath, letting her eyes soften as she truly looked at him. Not through anger, not through resentment, not through the rigid lens she had been using to define him for years, but through the new doorway the waiter's story had forced open. "I don't want to lose you," she whispered again, this time without her voice cracking. Not because she wasn't emotional, but because the truth felt steady now. Michael swallowed hard. "And I don't want you to feel like you ever have to choose between who you are and having me in your life." Emma blinked. She'd never heard him say anything like that. The man who always seemed so certain, so structured, was now speaking with a trembling sincerity that unraveled something deep inside her. "I know we don't see the world the same way," Michael continued, eyes shining with emotion he didn't try to hide. "But that doesn't mean I don't see you." Emma's breath caught. "You're strong," he said. "You're brave. You fight for what you believe in, and I admire that, even when it scares me." Emma felt her throat tighten again, but this time she didn't fight it. She didn't need the armor. Not here, not now. "I just never wanted you to see me as the enemy," Michael finished softly. Emma shook her head, brushing away a tear that escaped down her cheek. "I think I convinced myself you were, because it was easier than admitting I didn't understand you." Michael's eyebrows lifted slightly, his voice trembling. "And now?" Emma exhaled slowly. "Now, I want to try." Her grandmother let out a breath she seemed to have been holding for years. Her aunt placed a hand against her chest, overwhelmed with relief.
Michael looked at his daughter with a mixture of awe and disbelief. "You do?" Emma nodded. "Yeah, I do. I can fight for what I believe without fighting you every time." Michael's voice was barely a whisper. "Thank you." Emma gave a small, shaky smile. "I'm not perfect, Dad, and neither are you. But maybe that's okay." Michael's eyes softened. "It is." Silence fell again, but not the painful, suffocating silence from before. This one felt like a bridge being built, plank by plank, between two people who had spent years fighting on opposite ends of the same river. Then, quietly, the waiter reappeared beside their table, holding a fresh pitcher of water. His face carried the same quiet lines of sorrow, but now also something gentler. Recognition, maybe even hope. He glanced at Emma. She met his eyes, and for the first time, she didn't feel defensive or irritated. She felt grateful. "Everything all right here?" he asked softly. Emma nodded. "Yes, thank you." The waiter offered a faint, knowing smile. A man who had lost something, now watching someone else learn before it was too late. "I'm glad," he said simply, then stepped away. Emma watched him walk back toward the kitchen, feeling a thread of empathy tug at her heart. She hoped he would find peace someday. She hoped his daughter would understand. She hoped everything he had lost wouldn't go unrecognized by the world. But most of all, she hoped she wouldn't repeat his story. Turning back to her father, she whispered, almost shyly, "Maybe we could try having dinner again sometime. Just us. No arguing." Michael's eyes glistened again. "I would like that, more than you know." Emma squeezed his hand gently before letting go, not out of fear, but because she trusted the moment enough to release it. As the family finally began to eat, the long, tension-filled dinner slowly transforming into something warmer, more human, Emma felt something shift inside her. A letting go, a softening, a beginning. And for the first time in a long time, she realized that family wasn't a battlefield unless she chose to make it one. Tonight, she chose differently. And that choice, as small as it seemed, might be the one that kept her from repeating a stranger's heartbreaking story and helped rebuild the bond she thought had shattered beyond repair.